Hello, welcome to the podcast. We have Courtney and Nicole here today talking about putting together anthologies and talking about community authors and editors getting together. And I'll just let them kind of introduce themselves and introduce the topic, and we'll get going from there. Which one would you like to start? Courtney, Nicole? I see a
Because I
cat.
probably have less to say than Nicole.
Okay, Nicole, you go. Just go for it. Introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself, and then just launch into it.
Okay, well, I am a book editor. I have been in the business for a little over 12 years now. We recently I recently decided to match up with Nicole to create an anthology, which we put out in January of this year. So that is kind of how I met Nicole. And I don't know, do you want to go ahead, Nicole?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me on.
Mhm.
My name is Nicole Frail. I have been a professional book editor for 15 years. I worked in a publishing house in New York for 12 of those, while also freelancing with independent authors for about 10 of them. And in 2024, I left my traditional publisher and launched Nicole Frail Edits full time. And then realized that I missed traditional publishing a lot. So I launched my own press last year. So
Cool.
I have clients with Nicole Frail Edits, and I have authors with Nicole Frail Books. Um, and I started Nicole Frail Books with anthologies because short stories and novellas and, basically short reads, quick reads seem to be really in right now. People have a hard time finding big chunks of time to commit. So I started some short story contests, and the winners of those contests are featured in the anthologies. So in November, I released a winter themed, cozy winter themed, and a New Year's Eve themed anthology. And then I started looking for Valentine's Day themed books or short stories. Um, and I had in mind the idea to do a sweet and a spicy anthology, so two separate ones. But I am not traditionally a spicy romance editor, so I was looking for somebody to pair up with. And Courtney had actually messaged me. We share a similar Facebook group. We'd been following each other for a while. And she messaged me asking, like, how do you put together anthologies? Like, what is the process? And I was like, you know what, do you have any spicy romance experience? Because maybe we could team up and I could teach you what I'm doing. Um, and we can do this together. So she took the spicy and I took the sweet. And those released in January. And then I had said to her, do you want to do it again? So we have two more anthologies that we're planning. Mine in the summer is another romance kind of contemporary women's fiction collection that's a play on the just one bed trope. So those submissions all have to kind of match a road trip summer vacation vibe with a spin on just one blank. Like, what is that one thing that is going to force these characters together to get to know each other? And then Courtney's is for this fall, and it is a Victorian Gothic type book, and she can talk more about that one since she's on that one.
Nice.
I can talk more about it. So basically, what I'm looking for in my stories, which might be a little bit more up y'all's alley, is these uh, gothic type literature that has these elements of, say, bad weather, hostile, gloomy type of weather, older type buildings, castles, houses,
Cool.
or whatnot. Something that's been magnificent before and is dilapidated and run down now. And then maybe some supernatural elements. A lot of those you'll find in Gothic type stories. My main theme is looking for like a type of unreliable narrator or one that's surprising, something that you kind of feel like you're being lied to or you're being surprised or there's like a twist at the end based off of the narrator. The reason I say that that might be more up y'all's alley is because Gothic stories can be combined with many types of genres. So we could find easily a fantasy gothic story, or
Or steampunk or something like that.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Beauty and the Beast is a gothic story.
yeah.
You have the curse on the
Mm-hmm.
castle; it's falling apart. The beast becomes the monster, and then the servants all become these inanimate objects. That is a gothic story. That's all gothic tropes. Um, a Christmas Carol is also gothic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I guess, well, I don't know, Frankenstein, would that be considered
Oh
gothic
yeah,
literature?
that's traditional gothic. Yeah.
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 Which we can have traditional type gothic. I mean, you can have historical type gothics that you could submit to my anthology. You could also have contemporary. So you could have made
Mm-hmm.
up worlds, or you can have it happen within, the real world. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's why I'm so excited about it, because there's such a variety that you could add to it. So no matter what genre you write in, you could, as long as it has those key gothic elements, it could work for the anthology.
How many words are you wanting authors to submit for these stories, these short stories? Are we talking like 5,000 words or 10,000 word stories, or how 25,000 words? What do y'all think is the what is the range for the submissions from authors?
There's a 10,000 word cap.
Okay.
It's usually about 2,000 to 3,000 is the minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So the first two anthologies that I put out, there were 9 stories in each of them. And it was a good size book. And then
Yeah.
the Valentine's Day ones, there were 12 in the spicy and 19 in the sweet. And some of the ones in the suite were very, very, very quick, barely 2,000. And
Yeah.
then some of them were also almost 10,000. So the way that I set up the anthologies are too, the table of contents has a small summary on it for every single story. So that way you can get a sense of what the story is going to be instead of just having the title. So you'll know from that, and the page count that follows, what you're getting into, because I think that's important instead of just kind of glowing in blind with just like the title and the author. um, you know sometimes you only have a couple minutes, so like what do you want to commit to in that time? um, but what I like to do is make sure that the minimum is going to produce the minimum file size for an ebook, because I also offer the authors that are selected to be in the anthologies a chance to publish with my company separately. So they're in the anthologies in the paperback and the ebook, but then they also are offered a contract if they want to take it, to publish their ebook separately, which then they can split royalties. So they can, start their author platforms. They can gather individual reviews. They can be included in promotions by themselves. It's a really good way to start your career, even if it's just a short story, a novella.
My daughter going by there.
Uh,
Usually Cleve has cats going in and out all the time, and I have my daughter. I told her I'm about to start the podcast, so if you need anything, go ahead and do that now. But that never
We all
happens.
know.
I get
Mm-hmm.
it.
We all relate.
I've got cats and kids running around, so we're good.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm sorry. So yeah. So the lengthwise, I think Cleve has a hard time writing a chapter under 5,000 words. I don't know. He's got I got a book. What do you call it? The reader magnet from it was like 50,000 words. But yeah. So I think I like writing short stories, concise short stories. It's fun, and you can go on to the next thing. So a lot of readers like reading those short stories that they can read in an afternoon or a couple hours on their break or something like that,
Right.
or before bed or something. So that sounds like a fun idea, especially like a compilation of these sorts. Is the gothic ones, are they supposed to be geared for like Halloween-ish because it's like going to be in October, or is that going to be, or did I get it wrong?
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be. It could be, when you have these gothic type stories, that's something that could be read year round. But it is, if you are a mood reader, you'd probably more in the fall time is when you would want to read them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool.
Yep. Also, Gothic tropes. As far as I was going to say something different. I was going to say Gothic tropes. We're going to have to edit that part out. But anyway, I was going to say, as far as fantasy and science fiction goes, you guys thought about there are some tropes that are in your kind of purview, with romance. Romantasy is very popular right now, which is it's huge right now. We don't write romantasy, but that is part of the fantasy genre.
Yep.
So you guys ever thought about maybe doing an anthology on romantasy? Or there's also another big trope is the science fiction romance that's going on right now. Of course,
Yeah. There's definitely, I want to keep doing anthologies. I want to keep, so the two imprints that I have under Nicole Frail books are And You Press, which is where the anthologies come from. The whole point is that every single book that comes out of there has to be collaborative. So there has to be more than one author, or, partnership. And then Attic eBooks is the digital first imprint. So I want to keep putting out anthologies under And You because I like the idea of bringing multiple authors together and forming that team and forming that community. And it's like, hey, we might not have met under other circumstances, but now we are a team of, 10, 11, 12 people. And we have an Instagram group chat and we, help promote the books together. They all can buy the books and sell them at their own events and hey, I'm featured in this book. But so are all of my other, co-authors, and we're pushing each other's work. Sure. And we're promoting each other. We're writing reviews for each other. We're forming these bonds. So the whole point of And You Press, if you go on my website and you read about it, it's just, books by you and you and you and you. I want to create these communities. And authors that were in my first anthology are still, I see them supporting each other and I see them sharing each other's work. And I just think it's super important that we're not, whether we're two editors or two writers, we're not viewing each other as competition, even if we're writing in the same vein, because there's nothing that says, I'm only going to read this author for the rest of my life. It's not like that. It's I'm going to read this author, and if I like that author, I might read that author's friend. I might read that author's recommendation. It's just so important to get to know everybody who's writing what you're writing, and also everybody who's writing kind of sort of what you're writing, and even
Right.
not in your genre.
Courtney, your anthology is coming out. When is the submission deadline? So if you're an author and you're thinking, hey, I like Gothic literature, I like writing Gothic literature, or maybe I haven't thought about writing Gothic literature, but I'm like, hey, this sounds like a cool genre now, and maybe Cleave can back up the Cleave can talk about more about Gothic literature, just run down the tropes a little bit more so people can understand, hey, maybe I could fit into this. Maybe I don't even write Gothic literature. Maybe I write romance, or maybe I write science fiction, but this sounds like maybe a good crossover for me. And so one, we need to find out, how do they get a hold of you if they want to submit? Hold on. Hey, babe, I'm on the podcast right now. We're actually recording. Can I call you back later, or do you want to be on the podcast too? Or
I'll call you back.
You'll call me back? Okay, good. All right. Anyways,
it was me last time. That to be fair, I had an Amber Alert last time, and it was like,
yeah. So this could be a great opportunity for a new author who wants to get his name out there. Maybe he's publishing on KDP or somewhere else, and maybe hasn't got a big following, or maybe you do have a big following, and you're like, hey, I just think this would be fun to get on this thing. And it is great to network with other authors and find different books that you like, different genres. You might find other authors. Now, Cleave and I, we don't promote each other's work. We just pretty much just read me, don't read him. Okay, that's what we're on the show. We're not friends. We just do this to self-promote. So we don't I don't recommend you read any of his books. Just only read my books. But I mean, other than that, we definitely want to help each other out, because somebody might like Merick and Ulrik book, but they might also like a Cleave Bourbon book. So, and there's different flavors in there. I like different authors. So, and guess what? I had to come to conclusion that not everybody is going to exclusively only read my books, which is a shame. So, yeah, how dare they? But so Cleave, could you review the Gothic? As we've talked about this, you actually have a degree in Gothic literature or something like that. So maybe you could run down the tropes real quick of what Gothic literature is, and then maybe we could go back to Lisa. Not Lisa. Did I say Lisa? It's
Nicole.
Nicole. Sorry, Nicole, and she can talk more about
This is
the
not a
tropes that she's
professional
looking
operation.
for her with her publishing as well. So maybe we can get a little. We'll go around a circle around here. So first, Nicole, when do authors need to get their submissions in, and where can they send them to be part of this compilation? And where else is it going to
And
be
future
distributed as
compilations.
well? And where is it going to be primarily on Amazon, or is it going to be on all platforms? Where are you going to publish this compilation? And do you have a title of the compilation?
Yeah, so the anthologies are all distributed through Amazon and Ingram Spark for now. They can be found anywhere ebooks are sold, and I'm also trying to get them into smaller bookstores across the country. And the summer anthologies title is Just One ... And I don't have the subtitle yet because I'm waiting to see what's going to be in it. But the deadline for that is April 19th, so this Sunday. It's been open for a while. And I'm looking for, it could be romance, it could be friendship. It doesn't have to be romance. It could be a little steamy. It doesn't, again, have to be. Just depends on the
Could it
story.
be a steamy friendship? Like it's just like,
It
hey,
could be.
I just really
Yeah.
like you a lot, man.
Maybe. It's just important that it's summer themed, and that there's just one of something that is going to basically turn the story. Like what, and it doesn't have to be like something physical, like the bed, or a car, or a drink, whatever.
Just $1 million. That's all I
That would
need.
definitely bring people together, I would say.
It will. That will add some drama.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could be just one look, just one idea, just one.
Yeah.
But like I'm interested in seeing what the twist on that trope is going to be. But yeah, that's April 19th. So this week. And I'm planning to have it out June or July. It just kind of depends on how many.
So that one's pretty. The deadline's running out. You better get speed writing to get that one in.
Or maybe they have one lying around
Exactly.
somewhere they can just kind of throw at it.
Yeah.
I have several stories around that do nothing, that just sit there.
Yeah. Just
But
tweak it and see if it works.
You can make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to keep a story lying around just to tie the room together.
I like stories around. They don't have to be good. There's stories.
Yep.
Um,
So go ahead. I was going to ask Courtney and Nicole, where do they submit these submissions to? So like if an author says, hey, I want to, where do I go? What do I got to do? I have some stories that I think I'd like to submit.
And you
Could they just
press.
submit one at a time? And is there an entry fee for entering, or is it like, what is it?
Yeah. So it's andupress.com.
Okay.
And you pick whether, summer or fall. Right now there is a $10 entry fee. I've just been collecting them so that way I can pay for the publicity and marketing that goes behind them. I've teamed up with Plunge into Bookstores for all of the anthologies. We do a release day blitz. We do a book tour. We possibly sometimes do a trailer. It depends. But I try to get the word out about the books. So that way, there's celebration around it, and, do it the right way. It's not just like a silent release into the ether.
Nice. Right. That's always good.
Yeah.
All right. So did you want some of the Gothic tropes?
Yeah. So if somebody's wanted to think about, maybe they can write Gothic. What are some of the Gothic tropes, Cleave, that people could be writing about?
Well, in one of my own books, Red Mage, it's got Gothic tropes in it. It's got the, I don't call them vampires, I call them blood feeders, but they are essentially vampires. I have necromancy. Can go into fantasy. Basically, any genre. Some tropes are like, I don't know, rusty gates, footsteps in empty halls, lights on in abandoned buildings. Someone seeing a light and going, "Oh, there's a light." That happened in Harry Potter when the old man that's taking care of the Riddle household looked out and saw a light, and he's like, "What's that light doing?" That's a Gothic trope. Rattling chains, ghosts. There's ghosts. Let's see, what else is there? There is the damsel in distress, or it could be a man in distress. If you want to switch it on its head, you could do it that way. You could have
Mm-hmm.
the female rescuing the man in distress nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
The old in my degree is in 18th and 19th century Gothic literature, so back then it was the damsel in distress, but
Mm-hmm.
you can modernize it. There's the like Courtney said, there's the once opulent manor house, or it could be a cathedral. A lot of times in Gothic literature, it's there's monks and priests that have lost their faith, and so they end up having these supernatural elements to regain it.
Mm-hmm.
That's another Gothic trope, and that could be something that you could put into horror or fantasy, or
Yep. Kind of like that
there's a
to
few.
dusk to dawn when the guy, the priest who lost his faith, but he had to bless the holy water to kill
Mm-hmm.
the vampires.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like the trope. I mean, it's a modern, it's because of the movies. A lot of the old 30s and 40s movies have all these Gothic literature tropes
Mm-hmm.
from way back when. One of my favorites is the vampire when you hold up a cross,
Mm-hmm.
like to ward off the vampire. Religious
Yeah.
symbology,
Mm-hmm.
symbology,
Symbology. I like that.
symbology. Anyway,
Yeah.
symbiology. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They have to have faith. The person holding up the cross has to have faith behind it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it means nothing. The vampire's like, ah,
Right.
ha, ha. That came about because Bram Stoker was a really devout Catholic, so he put some of those
Mm-hmm.
tropes in there. But so
Yeah.
that didn't come about until like 1897. But I could go on for hours. So
So is Gothic literature, is kind of a part of horror, kind of, or
it's kind of every genre.
yeah, I got it. Because you could definitely put romance in there, I imagine.
Oh yeah,
Romance can just kind of go into any slot.
the vampire, victim
Mm-hmm.
love story is big, huge.
Yeah.
Yep.
And just to build off of what Cleave said, the castles, the abandoned opulent buildings, that's big in Gothic literature. But I'm also open to just houses or, like,
What could be the Second Empire house? The typical haunted house looking house.
yeah, absolutely.
That my generation has made beautiful again because we loved them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can't really find a dilapidated one anymore, but
Yeah.
they're probably restored.
Yeah. So,
But
yeah, I was just
it could be like that. Yeah.
open. Yeah.
It could be a farmhouse.
A what?
It could be a farmhouse, like a ranch house or something. Out in the middle of nowhere. That's also could be good.
Yep. And then there's the big one also with the weather. I feel like you're not going to have this
storms, thunderstorms.
You're not going to have a nice Gothic story with a beautiful sunshiny day. We're looking for like the thunderstorms, or I'm even open to like Arctic weather, blizzards and such. Like
it's kind of like the mood is a Gothic is kind of a moody
exactly.
story.
Absolutely.
That's it. It's very big on atmosphere.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then just
Awesome.
to touch on it also, the deadline for the Gothic anthology is June 20th. So we still have a few months to go on that. It will be released probably either the end of September or the end of August, beginning of September. So you have a little bit.
And it'll have the same stuff that the other, the book tour and all that stuff.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay,
I'll
cool.
have all the book tour and everything. It also has the 2,000 or 3,000 to 10,000 word count. The audience is geared for 18 plus. So similar.
Yeah. So if you write Gothic vampire romance, you can submit. If you write science fiction haunted house, like Alien's a haunted house story, by the way, because isolation is another one where you're isolated and you can't get out. You're stuck in somewhere isolated with a monster and you can't get out. The Abyss was like that, where they were under the water and there was something with them. And then, of course, Alien, when they're on the ship and there's the alien running around, they can't get off the ship and they're in confined spaces. That's big Gothic trope.
Yeah.
So any genre.
Yeah, the important thing with these anthologies is that like we accept so many different, different subgenres, I guess you could say, because it's about, picking it up and trying something new as a reader. You're introduced to new authors, you're introduced to new genres, you're introduced to a new way of reading. So it's like a sampler, but that's also the reason that I like to offer the ability to then, publish your short story like on its own, because so many people are intimidated by an anthology. They don't know if they're going to like everything inside, so they don't want to purchase it.
Yeah.
And like I do vendor events and everything. I sell our books at different craft fairs and things like that. And I do have to often explain what an anthology is. So I learned that, like, there's a certain way to explain how it came about, and to talk about the short stories and the authors in it. But some people just don't, they like what they like, and they don't want to try, a book of a mix and match. So
Yeah.
if a author that's in the anthology wants to publish with me separately, then that's the second option, that I'm willing to give to them. And that seems to work out pretty well. So yeah.
Okay.
Well, awesome. So definitely go to andrewspress.com. Did I say it right?
And you press.
And you press. Okay, sorry. ANDUpress.com. And check out their anthologies. And, I'm kind of getting excited about this whole Gothic anthology thing. I might have to come up with a Gothic story. Maybe I have time to submit one. I don't know.
You could do a John Price, Gothic John Price. That'd be cool.
Gothic John Price, yeah. John Price in
Victorian
Transylvania.
England.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, that could happen, actually.
It'd be cool.
Right now, he's dealing with pirates coming up in the next book, so they have to make it their way to England, Scotland, so they have to travel the Atlantic Ocean. So, anyway.
That's perfect. John Price could meet Jack the Ripper.
They could definitely go to England and have some Gothic stuff happening. That's a brilliant idea, Cleave. And I'm going to steal that idea and never give you credit. That was my idea.
John
Cleave.
Price, he punches Jack the Ripper right in the face.
Yes, exactly. Catches him. Yeah,
because
that'd be great.
He's messing with women, and John Price loves women.
He's the man who loves women. Yeah, this is great. All right. Well, awesome. We're so excited to have you on the show. Now, also, just talking about editing, we'll go ahead and go there. Let's talk real quick about editing. So you guys offer editing services. Y'all been doing this for a while. So, like, what can a new author expect to get from an editor? Do you do there's two or three different types of editing. I think there's creational editing, or editing where an editor gives you some feedback on the story and how the story's going, whether or not the story is working, because sometimes you write a story and there's a disconnect in some part where the villain or the hero is not likable, or there's no risk, there's no tension. And so maybe a good editor can give you feedback from that. Also, I found maybe possibly having beta readers is something I want to get back to having, can give you some good feedback when you're in the writing process. And you say, hey, I like this, not confused about this, or disconnected. Editor can really help you with that as well. And then they can also help you with just actually getting a clean manuscript finished. But you don't want to send an editor junk and then be like, oh my God, I got so much to do
and
here.
That happens a lot. I understand.
Yeah. So, what are some advice you'll have from editing, and what are some things that you ladies can offer an author from your editing services? Anybody want to jump in on that?
So the content editing that you were talking about, making sure there's tension and things like that, is called developmental editing. And that's something I don't really specialize in. So I'll let Nicole speak on that one, because that is the first step of editing that you would want, especially if you're a new author. So I'll let Nicole speak on that one.
Yeah. So with my editorial side, I offer what I call editorial assessments. So they could be part of your manuscript, or they could be the full manuscript. And they are similar to beta reads, except they are more detailed. And I go through the whole manuscript and I comment on, character development and pacing and point of view and organization, all the big the big picture things. And then I leave comments in the manuscript and I write an editorial letter about what's working. I give ideas about, how you could revise. That's more like global. And then once the revisions are made, we do a developmental edit. And that is more page by page, paragraph by paragraph. It's really getting in there. And it's focusing again on those big picture issues, but how are they affecting everything in the manuscript at a closer read. And that, again, So the way that I do it, I don't mark the document. Like, I will not rewrite for an author because I don't feel like you learn when somebody else is doing those things for you. So I'll leave the comments, I'll write the letter, however long it's going to be, but then all of the revision I feel has to be done by the author. And then the author will
Right.
send it back to me, and I'll, like, this is really great. You still need more of this. So it's a conversation at that point. But I
Mm-hmm.
will not rewrite because I just don't think there's a point of that. There are editors out there who will. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if it gets to the point where it's like, oh my god, you're on a deadline and you're not you're not getting it, like, I might type a
Yeah.
couple of example sentences, like, this is what I was thinking, like, what do you think, how do you feel? But
Yeah.
if we have the time and you're willing to learn and you're listening to feedback, then that's the relationship that I like to have with my authors. But once the developmental edit is done and your beta readers aren't confused anymore and they love it and everybody's happy, then you move on to the line editing and the copy editing and
Yeah.
proofreading, which I'm sure Courtney can talk about.
Well, hey, I'd like to jump in there. Here's some experiences that I've had with editors too. Is that well, my first book that I wrote, Brothers of Chaos, was the first one I wrote. And it was a short read, and I had submitted it to an editor, and she actually fired herself, and she said, "It's not for me." And she gave me this whole long thing about how my female characters had no dimension, and they were like really, one dimensional. So I went back and I really took that to heart, and I rewrote a lot of the secondary characters, giving them backstories and giving them motivations and different things outside of just the main plot of the story arc of the main character. And I added in some, differences because it was a family thing that I don't want to go into too depth, but there's secondary characters that were layering the story. But when I first wrote them, they were just cardboard cutouts. They didn't really have personalities, didn't have any, for all they could be the same person. You know what I'm saying? So I redid that, and since then I have never gotten any complaints, and I've actually brought that up to other readers, like, hey, well, how are the female characters? Did you get what? And they were all like, oh, they're great. But I really took that to heart, and that was from an editor giving me that feedback. So I had some of the female characters had what do you call it, differing personalities where they didn't got it along with each other, and different goals and different things, and totally different people. And that's how we all are. We're all totally different. And so I have children, and both of my daughters are completely different. I mean, they are both female, but they're different
Mine are
personalities.
too.
And then I have, as my son is different, they're all different. So even you raise them, try to raise them the same, they come out different. So
You
that's my
learned
first tip.
characterization.
Yeah, from editor really helped me get that across. But for secondary characters, especially, it's not a romantic interest; it's just other characters. And the other thing I will say is that I got feedback from people who wrote really good editorially, could edit their books really well, but were getting like really terrible reviews because their story was not a great story, but it was edited well.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't jive. So going back to uh, and so when I started, I was terrible at grammar and punctuation and things like that. It was in the reviews constantly. Hey, this needs edited. This is bad, but I love the story. And that when's the next one? And I was getting 4.5 stars. So I'm not saying do that. Don't put out stuff with like garbage that's you're not full. And I have gone back and edited and re-edited, third edits and stuff like that. But I feel like readers will be very forgiving if they love the characters and the story. Sometimes even if you are a fledgling author who hasn't got a literary degree like Cleave and mastery of the
I still have to
English
have an editor.
language like Courtney. But yeah. But anyways, that's my
Yeah.
3
If
bits.
you have a limited budget, I would say it's best to spend it on the content edit, the developmental edit, because you could, swap manuscripts with a critique partner and other writers and friends and family, and have them try to catch the small grammar errors, like English teachers, that kind of thing, if you are on a limited budget.
Yeah.
That's where I would spend it. I would spend it on the content. But I would not rely on those same people who don't, read in your genre all the time and who aren't
Yes.
familiar with, the way a book should be structured and pacing
Right.
and all that stuff, and then spend your money on the proofreader. Like the content is where the story is, and that's
Right.
if you're prioritizing, where you're spending your money.
And that's cheaper than just getting the developmental edit is cheaper.
The developmental edit is my most expensive service because it's so time. I spend a lot of time on it. So many reads, and it's so much back and forth, and it's following up and making sure. Whereas with the copy edit and proofreads and things like that, it's like it's wrong or it's right.
Yeah, that's true.
You're applying the rules, and then it's up to the author. When we track our changes, we're sending it back, and we're saying these are our suggestions. It's up to you to accept them or reject them. We're around for questions, but at the end of the day, like these are the rules that we're applying, and you're the one that has to decide whether you're going to take the advice or not.
Absolutely.
I see. Yeah.
Well, awesome. So if they want to get a hold, if you have some authors listening to this, you want to get a hold of Courtney or Nicole about editing and maybe checking out your book to get it ready for publishing, they can contact you on the same website.
So for
or what's the best way?
So for
way to get a hold of
me,
you?
if you're looking for editorial services, it's NicoleFrailEdits.com. If you want to pitch to me for publication, if you have more than one author on a book, if you're writing with somebody else, it's AndewPress.com. Or if you're writing short stories, novella, fiction, it's AtticEbooks.com.
Okay.
So there's 3 different things, but you could Google me and find them all.
You just got your hat thrown in every ring.
I'm trying.
And then, of course, if you want to contact me, you can just Google Courtney Umphress. My last name is pretty uncommon, but it's at CourtneyUmphress.com.
All right, and we'll put the links to those websites in the description in this video, and you guys can go easily check it out. And it sounds pretty cool. We're excited to see these compilations come out. It should be pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I am particularly excited about the Gothic compilation.
Yeah, they've already got the Valentine's one. What's out already? It's out, right? The spicy and the sweet and spicy.
Yeah,
the sweet
and spicy.
I like to order that when I go to the Chinese restaurant.
You know what's funny is that it's all about food. The theme was about food, so it'd be perfect.
All right, sweet and spicy.
It's already available.
All right.
Cool.
Well, that sounds awesome. We're really looking forward to checking that out. And thanks for coming on the show tonight. And thank you all for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us.
Yes,
we appreciate
thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you next time.